You make the determination that one or more outriggers cannot be fully deployed on the non-working side of the apparatus. Therefore, you decide to short set or short jack. To set up for short setting the apparatus, follow the same procedure for normal setup. Apply the parking brake, place the transmission into neutral, engage aerial power, engage PTO, and so forth. Remember to place the wheel chocks under the proper set of tires. This is determined by the grade the apparatus is being operated on. To short set the apparatus, you must become familiar with the use of the interlock override switch. The interlock override switch is used when you cannot fully extend the outrigger horizontal beam on the non-working side of the apparatus. If the outrigger's horizontal beams are not fully extended, the vertical jack will not deploy without using the interlock override. Note, if the outriggers are not fully extended, the aerial device will not rotate over the side of the unit that the outrigger is not fully extended on. Locate the outrigger control station on the working side of the apparatus. This is the side that the outriggers will be fully extended. Engage the high idle to allow for multiple deployment of the outriggers. To deploy the outriggers, locate the horizontal beam control handles and move them to the extend position. This will extend the outrigger horizontal beams on the side of the apparatus that you are operating on. Extend the horizontal beams to the fully deployed or extended position. Disengage the high idle switch and close the control station door. Now move to the opposite side of the apparatus. Engage the high idle. Locate the horizontal beam control handles and move them to the extend position. Extend the horizontal beams as far as possible. Turn the high idle off and close the outrigger control station door. Next, remove the outrigger shoring pads from their holders and place them under the outrigger vertical jacks. Place the shoring pads flat on the ground with the handles up and towards the apparatus. This places the handles under the extension beams, eliminating the potential for tripping. Note, shoring pads shall be used any time the outriggers are deployed and the aerial device is in operation. Now that you have the shoring pads in place, return to the side of the apparatus the outrigger horizontal beams are fully extended on. Engage the high idle. Engage the outrigger jack down control handles and the vertical jacks will travel downward. Keep the outrigger control handles engaged until the outrigger jacks make ground contact. Once the outrigger jacks come in contact with the shoring pads, the stabilization process of the apparatus begins. Continue to deploy the outrigger vertical jacks to level the unit. As the outrigger horizontal beams start to raise, the under beam switch closes and illuminates the outrigger deployment lights at the outrigger control station. Continue to deploy the outrigger jacks while watching the angle indicator to level the apparatus on one side. Disengage the high idle and proceed to the opposite side outrigger control station. Now comes the difference. It will be necessary for the operator to use the interlock override switch to deploy the vertical jack of the outriggers or outriggers that are not fully extended. Deploy the outrigger vertical jack or jacks of the short set outriggers using the interlock override. The operator shall deploy the outrigger until the jack feet come in contact with the shoring pad. Continue to deploy the outrigger's vertical jacks, leveling the apparatus towards the 0 mark on the angle indicator. Note, when an outrigger or outriggers are not fully deployed, short set, the outrigger deployed light will not function. At this time, check the apparatus for level from side to side. Utilizing the angle indicator along with the outrigger deployment indicator lights, level the unit from side to side. It is preferred to be in the green or 100% zone, but must be in the yellow or 50% zone at minimum for operation. Note, the drive axle tires should remain in contact with the ground if possible, but is not necessary when the apparatus is positioned on level terrain. Once the apparatus has been leveled from side to side, deploy the under bumper jacks. Engage the bumper jack control until the bumper jack deployment indicator light is illuminated. After indicator light is illuminated, hold the deployment control handle for a few seconds. Turn off the high idle and inspect the setup. The apparatus setup inspection shall be performed prior to deploying the aerial device and shall include the following items. Check that all outrigger deployment lights are illuminated. The outrigger deployment light will not be illuminated for an outrigger that is short set. Check the angle indicator to ensure the leveling ball is as close to zero and in the green zone to have 100% of aerial capacity. If the leveling ball is in the yellow zone, the aerial load capacities are reduced by 50%. If the leveling ball is in the red zone, the operator must not operate the aerial device. Check the side of the apparatus, looking for the weight of the apparatus to be supported by the outriggers. This is determined by looking at the rear axle tires. If the bulge has been removed from the side wall of the tires on both sides of the apparatus, you may operate the aerial device. If you are not sure there is enough weight supported by the outrigger, you may adjust the outrigger vertical jacks to remove more weight from the suspension. If the rear tires lose contact with the ground, the aerial may still be operated with the recommended load capacities. For load capacities, refer to the load chart. Only after inspection is completed and determined to be correct may the aerial device be operated. To finish the stabilization setup, remove the outrigger safety pins from the holders and insert them into the closest hole to the bottom of the outrigger jack outer skirt. Now let's place the apparatus into road position. Check that all fold-down steps have been raised into the road position. Next, remove the safety pins. It is imperative to remove the safety pins prior to retracting the outrigger's vertical jacks, or damage will occur to the outrigger inner skirt and pins. Place the safety pins into their respective holders. Now open the left outrigger control station and engage the high idle. Locate the bumper jack control handle and engage to the retract position. Retract the bumper jack until the hydraulic pressure gauge reaches its maximum pressure, not to exceed 2000 psi. This reading indicates that the bumper jack is properly stowed. Continue to operate at the left side outrigger control station. Next, locate the front and rear jack control handles and engage to the retract position. Only retract the jacks on the left side half of the distance the vertical jacks are extended. Disengage the high idle and move to the right side outrigger control station. Once on the right side, engage the high idle. The right outrigger jacks may be retracted half the distance extended or completely. The amount of outrigger jack deployment will determine how far the operator retracts the outrigger jacks. At this point, if the outrigger jacks are fully retracted, you may retract the outrigger horizontal beams. Once finished retracting the horizontal outrigger beams into road position, turn off the high idle, close the outrigger control panel door, and proceed back to the left side. Back on the left side, engage high idle. Next, finish raising the outrigger's vertical jacks to the fully retracted position. Retract the outrigger's horizontal beams to the road position. Now disengage high idle and close the outrigger control panel door. Note, this method of raising the outriggers is known as walking the apparatus down. Proceed with picking up the shoring pads and placing them in their holders for road travel, making sure the shoring pads handles are directed down. Now pick up the wheel chocks and secure them in the holders. Enter the driver's side of the cab and turn off the aerial power and PTO. Fasten your seat belt, check your mirrors, apply the service brake, engage the transmission, release the parking brake, and drive away. Now that you know how to stabilize the apparatus, both in normal setup and short setting, let's proceed to the operation of the aerial. First, we'll go to the turntable and get familiar with the aerial controls. Lower the step at the side of the apparatus and ascend to the turntable control station. Once on the turntable, secure the handrail safety chain. Open the turntable control panel cover. Note the various controls and labels. Let's start with the high idle switch. The high idle switch is used to increase the engine speed. Using the high idle switch allows for multiple functions to be performed at one time. If the apparatus is equipped with a fire pump, the high idle will not engage when the fire pump is operating. All final aerial positioning shall be performed with the engine at idle speed. Next is the rung alignment light. The rung alignment light is used for positioning the ladder with all rungs aligned. This allows for a safer ascent to the tip of the aerial. The rung alignment light will illuminate momentarily when the rungs of the ladder sections are aligned during extension and retraction operations. Moving on is the interlock override switch. The interlock override switch is used to operate the aerial device when a horizontal outrigger beam is not fully deployed. Operation of the aerial device will require both the use of the interlock override and the aerial foot switch. This will also limit the operational zone of the aerial device. Now to the outrigger deployment light. The outrigger deployment light will be illuminated at any time the aerial device is in operation and an outrigger horizontal beam is not fully deployed. Next is the outrigger status lights. The outrigger status lights will be illuminated at any time the aerial device is in operation and an outrigger horizontal beam is not fully deployed. The outrigger status lights go one step further than the outrigger deployment lights. The status lights indicate on which side of the apparatus the outrigger is not fully deployed. Let's move over to the hydraulic pressure gauge. The hydraulic pressure gauge indicates the operating pressures while the aerial device is in operation. It is also used when placing the aerial device into the cradle. Looking up, we see the intercom. The intercom is used for communication from the turntable to the platform. Additionally, a third intercom may be utilized at the pump operator's panel. Looking down, we see the aerial foot switch. The aerial foot switch is a foot pedal that is used to allow operation of the aerial device. You must depress and hold the foot pedal before the aerial controls will function. Releasing the foot pedal will stop aerial operation. The platform controls will operate without the aerial foot switch being activated. Controls for the platform include the platform power control. The platform power control is used to supply the platform controls. Next is the manual leveling switch. The up-down switch is used to manually level the platform. Moving on, we see the automatic leveling control. The leveling palm button controls automatic leveling of the platform during operation of the aerial device. Finally, we see the platform monitor controls. The monitor controls operate the water monitor on the platform from the turntable. Both stream type and nozzle direction are controllable. Let's move over to the aerial controls. There are 3 levers that control extension, rotation, and elevation. These are hydraulic controls and should be feathered on and off for smooth, safe operation. When facing the turntable control panel, the lever furthest to the left controls extension and retraction of the aerial device. Pushing the lever forward will extend, and pulling the lever back will retract the aerial device. The middle lever controls rotation of the aerial device. Pushing it forwards will rotate the aerial clockwise, and pulling it back will rotate the aerial counterclockwise. You guessed it. The lever furthest to the right controls elevation of the aerial device. Pushing the lever forward will lower, and pulling the lever back will raise the aerial device. Additional devices include the low-level loading indicator. The low-level loading indicator displays the load on the aerial device during operation. Next is the flow meter. The flow meter indicates flow in the waterway to the platform in gallons per minute. Last but not least is the air minder. The air minder functions when the breathing air is being used on the aerial device. The air minder also indicates how much air is left in the system. Study and learn the controls. Proper and safe operation depend upon your knowledge of the aerial controls. Let's move on to the load chart. The load chart is located both on the turntable pedestal and in the platform. The load chart provides information on loading the aerial device, angles of operation, operation of master stream while the aerial device is loaded, operation of the aerial device on grades, and emergency power operations information. Now you know the controls and the necessary information to operate the aerial. So let's do it. Place your foot on the aerial foot switch to enable the aerial controls. First, let's elevate the aerial. Do not turn on the high idle. Facing the turntable controls, the lever furthest to the right is the elevation control. Pull the lever back towards you, feathering the control. Once the aerial device elevation is above 10 degrees, you may turn on the high idle. This measurement is indicated on the angle indicator on the outside of the base section. To engage high idle, stop the elevation function, turn on the high idle, and resume the elevation function. Operating the aerial device in this manner will reduce the potential for damage to the apparatus due to the wrong function being engaged. Continue to operate the aerial device controls. Once the aerial is elevated enough to clear any obstacles, stop elevation. Locate the rotation control lever and rotate the aerial approximately 90 degrees. Stop rotation and find the extension lever. Extend the aerial device. Stop extension and begin to lower the aerial. Lower the aerial until the platform is a few feet from the ground. It is important to observe the aerial while you are lowering it. The base of the aerial may come into contact with the body compartments. If it appears that the platform will contact the body compartments, extend the aerial, continuing lowering and observing. Note, the turntable operator must remain in visual contact with the aerial device anytime it is in motion. Once the aerial device is located in the proper area for operation, turn the high idle off. Now lower the platform to within a few inches from the ground. Note, the aerial shall not be in motion any time there are personnel on the ladder sections. To place the aerial into the road position, elevate the aerial. Once elevated beyond any obstacles, stop elevation and turn on the high idle. Continue to elevate the aerial high enough to clear the cradle. Stop elevation and retract the aerial. Once retracted completely, rotate the aerial to align it with the cradle. Approximate alignment can be accomplished by aligning the proximity arrows installed on the turntable. Lower the aerial to the 10-degree mark and stop. Turn off high idle. As you lower the aerial device into the cradle, sight down the base rail of the aerial device, assuring the aerial is aligned with the cradle. It may be necessary to adjust the aerial position for proper cradle alignment prior to placing the aerial into the cradle. After the base rail of the aerial device has made contact with the cradle headrest, engage the elevation down function fully while reading the pressure on the hydraulic pressure gauge. Hold the elevation control until the hydraulic pressure has achieved its maximum pressure reading, somewhere between 500 psi to 1100 psi. The aerial is ready for road travel. The operator shall close the turntable control panel and cover and hook the safety chains when departing the turntable. When on the ground, raise the body steps and start the outrigger stowing procedure. Aerial operation isn't complete until you know how to operate it from the platform. Many of the same controls as on the turntable control panel are on the platform control panel. Let's start with the control. Placement from left to right is the same as on the turntable control panel. The control furthest to the left is the extension control. The middle control is the rotation control. The control to the right is the elevation control. The platform controls move the aerial device in the direction of the control engaged. To operate the platform controls, grasp the desired control. Pull up on the lock and gently move the control. Note, any sudden movement of the platform controls with the aerial extended will result in greatly exaggerated movements in the platform. Care should be taken to feather the controls. Once again, we have a high idle control to increase engine speed for faster operation and multiple functions. The interlock override is present once again and must be used when the outriggers are short set. Next is the high range, low range control. This control is used for final adjustments of the platform. It reduces the maximum aerial speed in half, providing smoother control when close to objects. Finally, we have the platform leveling control. When activated along with the control on the turntable, the platform will level in the automatic mode. If the platform is out of level during operation, the auto mode control will call for a correction to be made automatically. In addition to the platform controls are the monitor and shower nozzle controls. The monitor controls direct the master stream of the nozzle. The shower nozzle provides a water curtain under the platform for rapid cooling. On the door to the platform is the other load chart. It too describes the loading of the aerial device with or without water, angles of operation, and grades of operation. Note, observe all safety and warning decals on the door panel. Breathing air is provided to the platform. The operators of the platform may use the breathing air system during operation of the platform. You may operate from the platform position without having the aerial foot switch pedal depressed, but the turntable operator must provide power to the platform. This is accomplished by turning the platform power control on. Note, anytime the aerial device is being operated from the platform, it is highly recommended that an operator remains on the turntable. This concludes the American LaFrance mid-mount aerial operational video. It is highly recommended that you review this videotape several times. In addition, review your notes at the aerial device to become familiar with the operation, function, and controls required for proper and safe operation. Remember that this video is an overview. More detailed information and specification can be found in the American LaFrance Operator's Maintenance Manual. Thank you.